All right. 5, 4, 3.
Coming to you from the Poorly Painted Studios in Cumming, Georgia, this is the Chuck and Zee Show. And now, here's Chuck and Zee.
What up, everybody? Welcome to the Chuck and Zee Show. Of course, I'm Chuck.
And I'm Zee.
And with us, as always, is producer Chaos, Miss Sharon Klein. And also tonight, our very special guest for the second time, Mr. Scott Moulton. Yay! Can we get some applause?
Oh, wait, I do have applause.
That's me.
Welcome back to the show, Scott.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, man. I love talking to you last time. Obviously, we get to talk a lot. You know, we talk at bike nights when I'm not running around. But we've had many conversations. I remember one very specific one when we were sitting outside of a restaurant in the mountains. We had gone on a trip. See, do you remember what trip it was?
Chattanooga.
Was it the Chattanooga trip? You and I sat outside smoking cigars and waiting. They were all in there forever, just talking about everything. And I remember telling Z, I was like, that's a podcast. What Scott and I just did was a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And so the last time we had you here, it was about, you know, kind of getting to know you a little bit. But tonight we're just going to chop it up.
Okay. That sounds great.
I'm glad you brought
Unexpected, no outline.
No prep, man.
I'm
We're just
not
going to talk.
prepared for any information.
Well, before we jump in, though, I do want to kind of update everybody on kind of what we've been doing the last couple of days. Zia, I figured you might want to talk a little bit about Fontana Village. Tell Scott a little bit about that trip, all that.
Oh, yeah.
You go with that?
Yeah, I guess put me on the spot, too. So we were invited by Fontana Village to come out and spend the weekend with them at their resort. We've never been to that particular resort, so that was really cool. It is, how many hundreds of acres is that resort? Like 365 acres.
It's some huge,
something like that. Facility. It has like 91 rooms, 119 cabins.
Yeah.
Really awesome.
Where is it? Where?
It's in Fontana Dam, North Carolina.
Okay, right. I got you.
Yeah. So it's right there, destination for anybody who goes up to the Dragon or in that North Carolina, Tennessee area, East Tennessee. It's really nice. Beautiful because the weather is obviously changing. So it's fall and they're changing leaves and all of that.
So pretty.
Yeah. So we stayed up there Friday night, Saturday night. Sharon was able to join us. Mm-hmm. We got some good footage. Because of the rain, we didn't take the bikes out because it was raining all day on Friday. So we didn't want to be miserable in the rain riding up. So,
right.
I can already hear, oh, you can ride a motorcycle in the rain.
Yeah.
Yes, but not on the Dragon. I mean, I'm not going to go wailing through the Dragon on a motorcycle when it's raining.
No, and all the leaves are falling. And that's something I thought about as well. Because, you know, my friend Presley Gray was with us helping to get footage. And one of the big incentives to go was to be able to really experience the Dragon in the fall like we did last year. Yeah. But with the rain and the leaves like they were, that's like asking for an accident. Mm-hmm. And I was nervous because I'm a baby.
Jessica and I, when Jessica first started riding, my wife, that's where we were. There was a huge thunderstorm and we were right outside of the resort, the one that has right on the river there where you can see it.
Topico Lodge.
And we had just ridden by it and it was pouring down rain. And so we pulled over and tried to get under a tree so we could put our rain gear on. And it was, lightning was happening everywhere. Mm-hmm. And we later learned that somebody had been struck by lightning on a motorcycle on top of like Grandfather Mountain or something.
Wow.
On the same day that this occurred. So I know what it feels like. And it was cold. It's very cold being wet.
Think of the odds of that. Like if you get a tree gets struck by lightning, it's standing still, right? Like if you get struck by lightning because you're just kind of walking, you're moving pretty slow. So the what would you call the convergence of time and all that stuff for that to happen to you? But can you imagine doing 40 on a motorcycle and you just happen to hit the right spot?
I think he was riding towards the top, and so it's probably not quite 40 because it's a pretty steep mountain there.
So he's probably almost
and it was probably pretty high, and I understand he died. So if I recall correctly. Yeah.
Poor guy.
But it was probably like 6 or 7 years ago.
When I was younger, I heard or I read something somewhere that people who have survived lightning strikes describe a tingling feeling like seconds before they get struck. And so like if I'm ever outside when it's raining and I get like an itch, or I'm like, oh, I gotta get under cover, man. I'm about to get struck.
I think it's too late by the time I don't think you're outrunning lightning.
It's connected. It's coming for you.
Right. I mean, you can dive, but I don't think you're gonna. Maybe if you're in the air and you're not grounded, maybe you'll live.
It got my ankle instead of my shoulder.
Jeez.
I don't think you're gonna make it though.
No.
You're gonna make it anyway.
There was one crazy during the summer. You know, we had that crazy storm that came through. That was, I think it was actual like tornado that came through North Georgia. I know it affected like Canton, it affected Forsyth County. But the winds were crazy. The trees were just bending like this through the winds. And a tree back in our backyard got struck by lightning.
Yeah.
It was crazy looking.
Super lucky how it struck, because if it would have struck dead on, it could have snapped that tree and hit the house. But the way it did, it just kind of like wrapped around the tree. So you see this wicked scar on the tree that goes around it. And then it connects to the ground. It actually hit our flower pots that were kind of like that acrylic plastic and warped them. Kind of nuts. Yeah.
Science, man.
I know, right?
Yeah. Lightning's scary.
Which is kind of, one of the things where we bring Scott on for, forensic science expert data thing.
Analysis.
Works with all the alphabet folks.
Computer stuff.
The only thing about talking to Scott is you're on the record, right? Like,
yeah.
Like, I'm going to call you into court later and be like, he said this. And now he's a witness in this case.
I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about how, like, I'm sure there's at least one drone that follows your movements.
Oh, no, there's probably more than that. I think you may actually get called to court.
Yeah. I had a friend of mine one time. He was in the military. He was a drill instructor. He was actually, when I coached youth football, he was my conditioning coach, which, by the way, those boys were in shape. One of his mottos was, we ain't going to lose because we're tired. Right. And he worked those 5, 6, 7-year-olds out there doing military crawls. Anyways, but he actually went on this one little thing where he called me and he's like, hey, Chuck, I put you down as a reference on something. And I was like, okay. And he goes, I wanted to warn you because, if they call you, they're going to say we're with, the FBI and all this other stuff. And I was like, what? And I was like,
give him my number.
I was like, all right, so what are you going to do? And he's like, I really can't tell you that.
Can't tell you.
But
I'd have to kill you.
And I was like, man, did you just put me on a list? Am I on the record now? Damn it. I'm never getting off. Anyways.
So silly.
They never let that go either. They'll keep you on the list forever.
Yeah.
Apparently.
I'm sure.
Apparently.
Your whole life.
Apparently they take stuff very seriously for a very long time, which is actually one of the things that you and I have talked about a few times.
Yeah.
Like the JFK thing.
Oh, yeah. So what's this new...
Yeah, you were telling me about this new deal that came out with the jet. Now, I read a little bit about it. But.
Yeah. So I woke up like 3 weeks ago and there was a guy giving an interview on the news. And again, it was new JFK information. There's still, even from the previous stuff that's been released, because some of that was already released because it expired past its 50 years. But there's like 16 pages that still hasn't been released of the JFK stuff. And not trying to be a conspiracy nut or anything, but that was, it was just something interesting that you kind of follow.
Right.
And all of a sudden, there's new information, and that changes all of the previous information. And it's that one of the Secret Service agents who was right outside the car during the time that the shooting happened, he is one of the people who picked up what they're calling the magic bullet.
Okay.
So the magic bullet was stuck in between the car and the seat, the part that folds down, and apparently he picked that up. And he did not know that there was some issue until 2014, apparently, with how the magic bullet, he apparently had been shell-shocked by the whole thing. No
yeah, because he was like 21 or
well,
something
he was
that age, right? He was like 24.
I mean, he was pretty young at the time, but then he still worked for like another year for Jackie Kennedy afterwards. And then after that, he just paid no attention. He didn't want anything to do with news or media or answering, investigation stuff or anything. And he just completely obliterated it and didn't watch anything for all those years. And then something happened in 2014 and he got alerted and he said, that's not how that happened. Apparently he had picked up the bullet and then he was in the emergency room where JFK had died and he had put the bullet at the foot of JFK's body on the gurney that was there. But somehow that bullet got moved to another gurney. And then because of that, and because of the other shooting that had happened, that became the magic bullet that they said came out of his jacket or his stuff instead of, and he had never told anybody, it had never been reported. He had put the evidence in his pocket when he got to the hospital. Then he took it out of his pocket and he put it on the gurney. Now he's written a book and, obviously he wants to go out there, but he's pretty old at this point, but he's just remembering what had happened and how it had been reported and that he had never been questioned in all these years. And so he came out and said it, but there is some corroborating evidence that has happened. There was previous nurses that had been interviewed and some of their story matches his story. And so it has been corroborated, but this would change all of the magic bullet theory about the number of bullets and how many bullets were shot and where the casings were.
And that's actually what I was going to do a little bit. Now, you probably are going to be able to explain this way better than I can because I know enough about this stuff to be dangerous. But basically, you have 3 shots, right? That's what they say. You can only have had 3 shots because that's all that
the
they
amount
can.
Of time.
In the amount of time,
like
right?
2.6 seconds or something like
right.
that.
So they could only have 3 bullets to account for. They could only explain those 3. If this theory is blown, it proves the other theory that there were more than 3 shots.
There was at least 4.
Meaning that it couldn't have been a lone gunman. It immediately destroys the lone gunman theory because that was the whole concept of the magic bullet. And that's the part that I wanted to kind of talk about a little bit. The magic bullet basically has to account for, I think, 4 wounds.
Like 4, yeah.
4 or 5.
The back of the neck, through the body,
the wrist,
through a hand,
and then
into the car.
And then it embedded it in his thigh.
I don't remember all the details, but I do recall that was the point of when they found it on the gurney.
That's right.
Of the governor or whatever.
That's right.
They found it on the gurney, and they felt like it came out of his jacket or his suit or whatever. And
the thing about the magic bullet that has always been the hardest part of it to swallow is that it's a pristine bullet. It barely has any damage on it. And if you've shot a gun through anything ever, if you've ever shot any type of bullet through anything, you know it deforms. And they've done these other tests where they shot it through a cadaver's wrist and the same bullet just explodes. And that was only one of the wounds that this bullet was supposed to have caused. And the other part of it that was crazy is that it does a turn in the air. So basically it comes out one side, makes a right turn and goes in another direction.
Well, yeah, you mean from the original theory,
right?
That they were trying to make movies about. And do
That's
all
right.
That, which is not the direction of where the bullet supposedly was found. Now we don't have a photo because he picked it up from the crease or something of where the piece was stuck in the convertible top. So we don't have a photo showing its angle or where it was sitting, but clearly that's going to make, and again, I'm not trying to be super detailed because I'd have to go back and review the last few years again. But this Paul Landis, I think is the guy, the Secret Service guy's name. He wrote a book and he just released it like 2 weeks ago.
For just a couple of guys sitting around in a room talking about it, I mean, it seems to destroy everything that we've been told about who killed JFK. And I think, I don't know if you would agree with me on this, but I've had my own theories on it. I think Tucker Carlson did a really good job of explaining it in that literally every single person that was involved or could have been involved in that conspiracy is either dead or dying, very close to it. Right. So who are they protecting by not releasing this information to which is our information. It belongs to us. Yeah. We should be able to see this. There's no reason for them not to give it to us. So they can't be protecting individuals.
No,
they have to be institutions. They have to be protecting the CIA, which is, I think, who most people allegedly think.
That's if it's the CIA. We don't know for sure.
We don't know, but
that's always been the intent, right?
Why didn't they inquire this? Why didn't they interview this one person though?
Oh.
Well, he was a Secret Service agent, and then once he had done his job, he was just kind of like the background guy. Like there's plenty of other people that they had
But he was
interviewed and
there,
done.
right?
He was, but and I think maybe he made a statement or something. I don't remember all the details he said, but after that, he was then assigned the post, and then nobody came back and talked to him. And then after he quit after a year or so, he took on another job, and then no one else ever asked him again.
They didn't want to know. They didn't.
Yeah,
They didn't need a story. They already had it all.
Well.
What is that old let a sleeping dog lie type of deal?
And there's so many people you can talk to, and then there's the film, and there's a number of things. So I feel like it's easy for one person to have slipped through the crack, and then
Clearly a very important person, though.
Well, it was one of a number of Secret Service agents.
But you also got to think about now again. I mean, obviously, it's hard for me to believe, and where my BS meter would go off on the story, which I have no reason to doubt the guy, is that he had no concept that this was a big conspiracy, right? And that it somewhat hinged on something that he was directly involved in.
So, to me, this is the part where it makes sense to me because I've done so many high stress cases and number of things. So when I'm on a case,
the most infamous murder in history.
Well, and that was one particular incident. But what I'm saying is, even for the lower level stuff that I deal with, I ignore the news and the media, and I don't listen to anything that might skew anything that for a case I'm working on. But you also get a little bit of PSTD from this. It's a little bit traumatic. Like you don't want to watch certain shows, and there's still certain shows I just don't watch because I don't want it to feel like I'm in a courtroom every day. I'm already in a courtroom, and it's high stress enough, and it brings that back. So I feel like I could see where he just ignored all this for all those years, and that he didn't watch the movies, and he stayed away from the books, and he just went to a farm and whatever he did.
Yeah.
So
and he was a kid too. He was probably like between 21 and 24, if I recall, and he was Jackie's bodyguard.
Yeah.
I get that. I personally think that a more believable story, which makes more sense within the human condition, is that I was scared. Look at what everybody's done. The people that have come out. I mean, look at what happened to Ruby. I mean, what they literally got into his jail cell and gave him cancer.
Yeah, they gave him cancer. I mean, forget that he killed Oswald, but just, for whatever deal might happen. I somewhat
believe that they did give that guy cancer.
They gave him cancer.
Yeah, I definitely believe that they whacked him out of his gourd because there's this whole. All right, so part of this.
Wait. So you don't think there's any truth to the fact that he already had the cancer? And they just paid him off to give money to his family. Like he just dismissing that one right away.
That might be part of it. Yeah, he might have already had cancer. I mean, maybe he did. He was
like 3 months in or something, right? He died or something.
Yeah. But do you know that I can't think of the doctor's name? I can't think of the doctor's name.
I got pancreatic. I'm going to go. I don't know what he had,
but you know about MK Ultra, right?
I don't know what you're talking about now.
You know what MK Ultra?
I don't think so.
Okay, so there's this study done by the CIA back in the day where they basically dosed people with LSD. They dosed them to see how people would react. Some of these people include Ted Kaczynski, Charles Manson.
Yeah. But they released this report for you to read?
No, this is something you can find. Like they were all a part of the.
Is that Sidney Gottlieb?
Is that what it is? Sidney Gottlieb? I think that is the name.
Doctor.
Yeah. So basically they had so the concept is that they could dose people and then they were very susceptible to suggestion. They could suggest things, and these are very smart people, and they could direct them to do this. Is super conspiracy nut stuff, right? But the MK Ultra program is real. Yeah. This is a real thing, and these people really participated in it.
Right.
So that's actually not something they can hide. But basically what the concept was is they dosed these people, and they learned how to dose people to the right levels of either getting them to be susceptible to suggestion, taught them how to be cult leaders, literally taught Charles Manson how to do this stuff. And then he goes out and becomes this. It's real stuff. You can look this up.
Yeah.
You're going to love.
But you're saying before, not after. Like it's not. Like, it's the cause, not the.
So, well, I don't know, but I'm just saying they were a part of it. I'm not saying causation equals correlation. I'm saying that they were a part of this, right? That very same doctor.
Now, Charles Manson wasn't even there when they killed them people.
Huh? Oh yeah, I know all that. Right, but that means he's a smart cult leader.
All right, yeah, just run away on the trees. Right?
He's a very smart man. That's the point. Yep. So, all right. But so basically the doctor that ran MK Ultra, the doctor that ran that program, visited Ruby in his cell. right before Ruby apparently went nut fucks, before he started raving like a lunatic. And the theory is that he was getting ready to talk and they went and dosed the hell out of him to drive him crazy. And then like a month or so later, he was dead.
Yeah. Whitey Bulger was a part of that.
Well,
Whitey Bulger was a part of MK Ultra. Think about the names I'm saying.
Right.
It was in the 50s and 60s is when they had that program.
They were literally taught how to do this through the MK Ultra program. You're going to have fun with that one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure I've read some of the things, just didn't realize that that's what it was that you were, because I mean, they've done it to communities and they've done like testing and
we'll see how aluminum barium affects this civilization.
Right. Yeah, we'll dose this building of immigrants over here. We'll see what happens to those people. Like,
Tuskegee, what?
Didn't they do one with like
Agent Orange?
They did one with like an STD, didn't they? Was it syphilis?
Yes. Yeah.
I hate that I know that.
Yeah.
I know there's a bunch of that.
Yeah. So, but
our government.
But my point is that's where I
start. Be a quote on the stand.
Yeah.
One day to be like, did you just say that?
That's where I start drawing connections. That's where I start drawing connections to the CIA, is because they were a part of this program, and suspiciously, all of these people that were tangentially connected. And then you find out that basically in the last release through the JFK files,
right?
I mean, when you connect the dots in there, I mean, Lee Harvey Oswald was an agent. He was an asset of the CIA that was being run by the CIA. Follow the trail. Went to Moscow. Don't rush it. Oh, I mean, it's so obvious. I don't know why they just don't go, all right, guys, listen, these old fucks that aren't here anymore, they did some stupid shit.
I have a whole nother idea about how
you think it's something different?
Yeah, I completely think it's something different. I think because all the cases that I've always worked on, almost always it's follow the money.
Right.
And JFK started messing with the money, right? He decided
the military industrial complex.
Well, he started messing with the Federal Reserve Bank. So he created an executive order that allowed the government. He basically said, we're not going to continue to borrow money from the Fed because we'll never get out of debt. We'll always be paying them a piece. We have, some trillion number of silver bullion. We will print new money on silver bullion that is not from the Federal Reserve Bank, that's from the government. And they did. And we have silver dollars and silver, $2 and $5 bills that were released. And then there were 10s and 20s that were on the way. Mm-hmm. And so as soon as you bypass the Federal Reserve Bank and you say, you're no longer going to be getting a piece of the pie, now you're messing with a huge number of people's money all over the world. And so, because they're the richest banks in the world. And so I think, well, so now shortly after, so he gets assassinated.
Okay.
And then shortly after, when Lyndon B. Johnson takes over, Lyndon B. Johnson's next step was to kill all the money. So he ordered it destroyed coming back to the bank. So if any of the silver certificates came back to the bank. So I feel like it's a follow the money deal. It's always going to be about the money.
I think that's part of it too, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, look at our debt. I mean, look how much we are paying more in our debt now to service the loan.
I think what you're telling me is I'm being too specific in targeting one agency. Because if you look at JFK and what he did, he pissed off the military in general when he refused to continue with the Bay of Pigs and the Cuban invasion.
Whole thing, yeah.
He straight up said, because they lied to him.
Fidel Castro made a call up to Canada and was talking to Justin Trudeau's mom and said, hey, let's go.
Yeah. Could have been definitely part of it.
Let's go get him. Right?
He publicly acknowledged that he wanted to splinter the CIA into a million pieces.
He wanted to disassemble it.
So the Federal Reserve, the CIA, all these other people, he was pissing off the wrong people. So instead of being specific and saying someone within the government probably assassinated our president, allegedly, according to obvious conclusions from the documents and stuff.
I mean, even though the Federal Reserve Bank isn't technically a part of our government, there's still some influence.
I actually think it runs the government.
Well, yes, right. So indirectly through, not being governed by us.
That's right.
From that perspective. And they just picked up the phone and they said, Mr. Johnson, hey, guess what's going to happen? You're going to not use silver certificates anymore. Burn them all.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Otherwise, you're next.
Yeah. So I guess the point is there's plenty of motivation, plenty of people that were involved, and the story doesn't add.
Yeah.
And I think that it's one of those things that I think is a problem we have with our system of government is, and also with the citizens, in that when they say things like, well, we can't release this information because it's a matter of national security, I don't think they're necessarily just talking about foreign. I think they're mostly worried about the domestic problems that they would have.
If you tear down the system, then no one believes in the system.
That's right.
And then you have no system to believe in here. So,
yep. And that's why they don't like, what's his name?
Well, I mean, and that is a common problem with the election system, right? If they do prove that part of the election system is false and something happened, then how do you believe that your vote counted? And then therefore, all the people will eventually be, why should we vote? Or what happens? And we're not a democracy.
And my point, well, we're not a democracy.
We're not a democracy.
We're a limited constitutional republic. As a matter of fact, if we were a democracy, we would have never advanced as much as we have, because it would have always been majority rule.
Yep.
And just feel free to look back through history as to who was in the majority when change was needed, and it came. And it wasn't because the popular vote said, let's do this. It was because we had elected representatives that spoke for large groups of people. But we'll get off.
Yeah, that's a different, we
can get off on that.
Be careful on that one.
Yeah, you do got to be careful on that one. But I think that the problem I have is that we all know it's broken. We know it's broken. They know it's broken. And we just have, I don't know how you fix a problem when both people know it's broken and no one will admit it.
There is a way they fix it. What they do is before all the big announcements come out tomorrow, they tell you aliens are real.
There you go.
So is that what you think that is?
I mean, there's some coincidences.
You think it's a spy op?
Like, there's a process here where they're like, you know what? We do have this in our back pocket. It really is real. ID4, the movie was not fiction. It was literally made from something that actually happened, and the moon is hollow, and we've got, aliens living in it. And let's go ahead and tell the people tomorrow and show them some bodies and some shots. Mm-hmm. And then, the Mexican government's actually changing law so that they're the first government to recognize that aliens actually exist from those little ET mummies that they had.
Oh my gosh.
Right. I'm serious. So literally, on September 27th, they submitted it as a
you're being a little bit. I can't tell if you're being. No,
I'm serious. It's 100% serious.
No, everything you said serious. But now, do you believe it?
I mean, I believe that there probably are aliens.
Right.
I believe that certainly is a possibility.
Smokescreen, though, right?
I mean, we're just one planet and piles of other planets. There's something that's got to be going on. They've already proven that we have water and all the carbon, all the other building factors that are necessary for what we know as life someplace else. So certainly it could possibly be true. Whether or not it's the reflections off the windows that people are filming out of their cars and saying that those are flying saucers, I don't know that that's the one.
Yeah.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I don't see how you can not believe there are aliens. I just think that if you accept that life has the structure that we have, then there's obvious levels of evolution. Just like we have an evolutionary comparison with our chimp neighbors, I'm sure there's a life form that's more evolved than us. I don't think it's magical. I think it's a biological form that exists within the natural world. Probably much older than us. Probably been here for a long time. Probably visited us many times. Just like we tag chimps. I'm sure they've come and visited and see how us crazy little monkeys are doing. I'm sure.
Right.
Yeah, I don't
there's
know.
Plenty of, pictures that on the sides of pyramid and other stuff. Maybe not on inside the pyramid. Like there's plenty of other possible items that look like things we now recognize. Although, it's hard to know that that's exactly what they saw. But typically, I would think that there would have been some visitors at some point along the way.
You would think. I mean, there's so many things within the record, like the proliferation of pyramids all across the planet in basically the same time period amongst civilizations that can't talk to each other, that don't know they exist, or it's either that or we have the record of human existence completely wrong in that it's a much older species than what we've been led to believe, which I actually think probably is pretty accurate.
Yeah.
That we've probably, because it doesn't make sense that we're only, now Göbekli Tepe at least dates us back to 40,000 years when we were no longer hunter-gatherers. And in our form, we've been around for a very long time. And there were all these different versions of us, the Neanderthals and the Homo sapiens, and they intermingle. I just think that it makes sense that somewhere along the way in our past, we were guided. Yeah. And that all of our...
Or mixed.
or mixed.
I mean, mixed
And
accounts for a lot of it.
Created in their image.
Yeah.
I think that, you see what I'm saying? I think that all that
But we're
stuff,
telling all the people this now because there's an important thing that's going to happen tomorrow. And we're
you think it's the government.
Yeah,
okay. Okay. So you think that, okay. So do you think they're telling us now or that it's fiction? Like it's a psyop?
No, I really do think that there's moments that they use it as a distraction. I definitely think the government decides, or certain aspects of the government decide when to release certain information that they can use as a distraction based on certain times that something's going to occur.
Yeah.
So
what does it feel like to use it? You typically have like a pretty good barometer for, I'm not paying attention to that. Or I
am. The news that's come out actually it feels kind of fake to me.
Does it?
Yeah.
Feels manufactured.
It doesn't make sense why this guy is being a whistleblower right now, why they're letting these guys that have worked in the government live. I mean, they've killed journalists for less.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So it doesn't feel.
But maybe it's because they knew you were going to think that they're just crazy. It doesn't matter. So
that's too meta.
Because Project Blue Book and all the other stuff that went back for 50 years at this point, 60 years.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of material that somehow proves portions of these stories to have been true.
Yeah.
At some variety, but it doesn't. A lot of times, it doesn't take much more than just a small portion of the story to be true for your mind to go crazy, and then all of a sudden create things that aren't true.
Yeah.
And so, but
that's true.
I mean,
I
think it's really been because in the last 5 or 6 years, there's been a lot of pilots from different military aspects that have come forward and said, we actually have seen something that we can't explain. And release some video, and that's kind of why I think it's being pushed now.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I do believe that there are other things out there, aliens out there. I do believe that, just based on what you said, Scott. Like, we're only one planet. I mean, there's huge,
infinite space
universe out there, so there has to be.
Right. And they're all hiding just on the dark side of the
moon. Yeah.
That's where they're at.
Right. They're just on the other side. And as soon as you go around the other side, you'll see them.
I know. What if they have, I think I listened to this on another podcast, but it was just like, if they have such high technology, high technology, how are they crashing? And their people aren't coming to get them and take them back.
I mean,
we have people that crash and we don't go get them.
Yeah.
I mean, or we try to negotiate with somebody to come and get them later or something.
It's just,
they don't have advanced Tesla autopilot.
They don't have GPS.
Well, that's what I'm saying. The technology should be advanced, way more advanced. I'm thinking, but I don't know.
Bitches. Well, I would say, this is what I would say. I would say that the ones that are getting here are crashing. Because I would say there's not just one. There's probably not just alien type 1. Alien type 2. I would imagine there's probably been many types of aliens, and these bitches that are crashing in metal things are probably the guys out hot rodding.
Right. It's the teenagers taking it out for a spin.
They're new.
You called them bitches.
Yeah, they're the dumbass teenager aliens. They're only a 4 billion year old civilization, right? These civilizations that are 8 billion years old. Those are the ones in the little fucking hologram cubes that disappear when you try to touch them.
They're all hopped up on Mountain Dew.
They're all hot rodding in daddy's spaceship. Oh, fuck. Could you imagine that? That one in Brazil. So there's
I can't wait to do that.
I can't.
I want a spaceship.
Trust me, I will be an early adopter. I'm like, oh, fuck. How much is it?
Yep.
How fast does this go? Is this faster than my Harley?
Right. I evaporate and come back. Holy shit. Can't wait.
Crazy.
Yeah. Speaking, I actually got a chance to drive one of the current human machines on the Dragon this weekend. I got to whip the TRX around the tail of the Dragon. Hella. That was a good time.
Yeah.
It's not as good as two wheels, but if you're gonna have to be in something else.
We did get some good footage though, because if we had been on bikes, we would not have been able to get the shots that we did that really show how beautiful the tail of the Dragon is at this time.
Yeah.
Period, during this month,
I mean, I've been in a lot of places, but fall in the Georgia mountains, North Carolina,
Tennessee.
Yeah, it's just gorgeous. I got really good drone footage. I can't wait to put it up. But I wanted to ask you a question, man, because you wore it. Like I stuck your hat on the picture because I love the fact that the last time you were here, we were talking about you just start making stuff.
Yep.
And you made some gloves.
Yep.
And now you're into hats. And I saw that you made that one and I put it up and you wore it here today.
Yep. Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
I just finished it a couple of days ago and I made a hat out of it. I had a couple of hats I made recently, one for an auction for my stepsons. They're adopting a child. And so we did a fundraiser basically. And I made a hat for that purpose. And then I decided I was going to make this red hat to kind of go with this jacket that I have here.
Yeah, it matches perfectly.
Yep. So
it looks good.
So I have made a couple of things, and I made something for you, not out of leather though. So this is a 3D print of a bullet.
Oh my gosh!
That you unscrew it, and I didn't design it, just so you know. I just 3D printed it. You can unscrew it. And you can store, I don't know, shots or whatever else that you want in there. So it is hollow, so you can.
Wow.
Secret government.
That's
Holy
cool.
shit! It's a magic bullet.
It's a magic bullet. It goes with our topic today, and it's even colorful like a magic bullet.
Yeah,
so cool.
that's awesome.
Thank you so much. That's
You
really
can add
cool.
it to your collection on the
it's going to go in here for
or the
sure.
walls or wherever.
Thank you so much.
Things go.
I
That's so nice.
have a little one right here.
Oh, it's the baby mommy.
His bullet.
You can store those in that bullet.
I can put
And
little
then-
bullets in
right.
the big bullet.
Right, and then it'll be like a decoy when you're driving around in the
Yeah.
car and the cops are looking at them like, oh, it's just a 3D print.
Are you sure this is a bullet?
Like a Matryoshka doll. Oh my god!
Glass.
What 3D did you get this from?
Yeah, you can do
not
whatever
this kind
you
of
want to do with it.
That is the wrong kind of show.
You could store stuff in here. That's Tommy Boy, right?
Yep.
It's a little fridge. You could put a 6-pack of Coke in here.
Great show.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go back to making some more gloves.
Are you really?
Yeah. I mean, I still only got, so I didn't do the ridge that I want. Like I have these boots here that are snapping turtle boots.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Wait, can you lift up your leg just a little bit? These are, okay. Snapping turtle boots.
snapping turtle leather boots.
Nice.
They have a ridge. They have a single ridge, unlike a gator that would normally have 2 ridges.
Okay.
So I've bought some of this leather. It's super rare. And I'm going to make some gloves with the ridge down the middle of the back of the
Okay.
gloves. So I've been testing gloves, and I've made 5 or 6 pairs so far.
That's
And
cool.
I will make another pair with the snapping turtle leather on it. So that's still in the future.
What?
It's just funny that he just like suddenly starts making stuff. It just cracks me up. I'm jealous because I'm like, I wish I had time to make a hat. I wouldn't even know where to start to make it.
I know. I asked him, what's it like to be working with leather and kind of just decide, I'm going to make a hat this weekend. And the next thing you know, he's got this.
Right, that's what you do. You literally just you get a big flat piece of leather that you buy from. I got them from the Tandy store over on. Tandy's kind of one of the only places you can kind of touch the leather and actually pick out what you want. But there's a lot of online places you order leather from, and so if I know what I'm ordering, I'll typically order some from like Springfield Leather and a couple places like that. But you just pick a flat piece of leather and you say, I like this design. What would this look good as? A vest, and make a vest.
You gonna make some boots?
I'm probably not going to make boot. That's when you're getting to the
It's
hardest.
cobbling.
That's
You gotta-
the hardest.
You got to be a
level.
cobbler to do that.
There's about 10 different levels to get to before I'm making boots. Yes.
Did you crack yourself up over there?
So dumb.
So she
I
cracked-
mean, I have cobbler. I have
You
a
done some
cobbler
cobbling?
anvil. I got a cobbler. I got all the
cobble
cobbler
from time
tools.
to time.
Do you have an anvil?
I have many anvils actually. I got
Did we talk about
He's
anvils?
like, I cobble.
I have
We
like
did.
10 anvils,
We
but I
talked
do have a so cobblers have a specific anvil. Why is this funny?
What do they
Maybe
use
I'm
the
too
anvil?
close to the leather field. This is an everyday discussion for me.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
I'm
They're-
cobbling it together.
So what do you use an anvil for when you're making boots?
Oh,
So anytime you need a metal surface to hit something on,
Oh,
that's what
right?
you-
So
hit it
that's
on
what
the
an
anvil.
anvil, and there's many different shapes of anvils, and I've got a bunch of square plates that are about that big. But a cobbler's anvil is a 3-sided
okay.
anvil, or depending on which kind you want. There's some that are fixed, but there's 3 sides to it, and each side has the size of a shoe. It looks like a shoe shape.
Oh,
Nope.
oh yeah, I've seen those
Nope.
before.
Right.
There's only one type of anvil, and it's the kind you drop on a coyote's head.
Right.
It's the kind that
I have smaller versions of that anvil.
That is the only anvil
I have
that matters.
2 or 3 of those anvils also, but nothing that size.
I always wondered, where was it? Right? Every time he orders an anvil, it usually just falls out of the sky on his head. Where was it? Every now and then.
Right. It's the Acme anvil.
Every now and then you'd see him put like a 2,000-pound anvil on a 2x4 on a cliff, and he just stands on it with his foot and lets it go or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, because the wood's not going to just...
No. Well,
it's going to hold it together.
I'm looking for logistic sense in a cartoon.
It was dropped from a plane or something.
It's a delivery.
Right. Amazon brought it.
I was about to say, Acme was Amazon.
Yeah.
It is. Very much. It is.
Somebody watched that. That was Jeff Bezos. He was like, you know what?
I'm going to make that, right? You just call it, and bam, it shows up.
What if you could get an anvil like in 10
Arizona?
Seconds? Yeah, in 10 seconds. And with the drones coming, it's going to be really quick.
I don't think the drone is going to deliver a 2,000-pound anvil.
No,
it would not get off the ground.
It's going to need a helicopter or more to lift that.
You might.
I mean, even the smaller ones can be 200 pounds.
I don't know. This new technology that looks like aliens our government has, maybe. It's funny whenever you were talking about like the snapping turtle and all that, because we were talking about aliens and we were talking about how they tag people. My brain went so dark. I immediately was like, what if there was like aliens that they're going like, oh, I got some Georgian boots. And it's like a guy from
from Georgia,
from Locust Grove.
Yeah, I've got
snatched.
some skin from him that I made my boots from.
Some poor guy in Locust Grove was just hanging out.
Right.
He makes some good boots.
He had a beard on his front.
I was just gonna say, little bald.
You know what you do? You got to get an anvil if you want to pound out human boots. You know.
Right. Yep.
Oh my
Holy
gosh,
cow.
this is so dark.
So dark. So dark.
Can we talk about something? Motorcycles. How about that?
Well, you guys just got back from a pretty big trip.
Yeah, we went to Wisconsin for Indian Bike Week.
Nice.
And so we...
So it's like 5 people... What do y'all do? Y'all go to like the gas station?
There's 7 people that showed up. So,
oh my God, Chuck.
That's what he's
so wrong.
That was so mean. I didn't get it. I was like, how many people in your group?
To be fair, now, so we did look up like some of the things that like when Harley does like an event and they do, like a run to see how many people they can get to ride together. Mm-hmm. The world record was like, 3,500 people in a Harley rode together.
Okay.
Wow, that's a lot.
It is quite a bit. And we had 650 registrations and 300-ish people rode together.
Nice.
We could have taken everybody who registered and 10%. Still wouldn't have been what they did with the Harley people, and they did it. However, the girls did a ride, and the girls did, how many girls on an Indian, the longest, and it was, I think we had 106 altogether, which is the world record. At the moment for all the women riding together. But, for the rest of us, I will say, so we went, because it was in Wisconsin and it's a lot of little small towns that we were going through. It was pretty cool because we all stayed together and the blockers blocked all these little small roads and all the town. And we didn't get interfered with by the police or by anybody in the town. And we pretty much never stopped. We would go on like a 3-hour ride. It's not super fast, but I mean, most of the time it's going to be between 40 and 60 miles an hour and 300 people riding together. And so the blockers would block and then they'd fall to the back. And on the last 2 or 3 days, the Sons of Anarchy there was like 4 people from the Sons of Anarchy show that showed up and rode motorcycles.
Stop it.
And so Boone he was the most recognizable, and then Rusty Owens, or what I think is his name, and he's the really tall guy who's actually in the Hells Angels or something. He came.
Okay.
And we had a couple guys from the Mayans. And so they didn't have a bike, so they borrowed bikes and they rode, and they were the blockers.
Nice.
Oh, wow.
And so it was kind of weird to see them, like, because they're blocking and then they're falling to the back and then they're riding with everybody else. And then you just see, like, because when Boone, he's the big heavy guy who's in the show, he's no helmet, no nothing. Looks exactly like he does in the show. You could even tell if it was just his shadow.
Yeah.
That's who it is. And he's like pulling up and blocking, and then you can see people in trucks going, holy Sons of Anarchy in town blocking traffic. So
that's crazy.
So that, you know, it was kind of cool from that standpoint. I mean, I'm not super big into celebrities from that perspective, but it was kind of cool to see them riding with us and blocking.
I like that they came because, you know, Sons of Anarchy was so Harley focused.
Yeah, and they
came to Indian,
right.
you know, to do things for Indians.
Yep. Right.
Okay, that's all I had to say about that.
Yeah. No, they came. They stayed like 3 or 4 days and hung out and rode motorcycles with everybody. So
how cool!
That's really cool.
It was pretty good. But yeah, it was not 10,000 people like it would be at a Harley event. But there's also the nice thing, which there was not 10,000 people.
Yeah,
it's all right, man.
We were at a campground, and the campground sufficed, and we all sat around campfires, and
that's really cool, man.
Had some camaraderie together.
That's nice.
Y'all get there one day.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, so
baby steps.
300 Indians in a group. That means y'all probably saw every possible combination of customized Indian you can have.
Yeah, I mean, they all looked pretty different as a whole in little ways, but yes, it's not like the Harley realm from that perspective either. So.
Although Indian's coming along. I mean, I know I give Indian crap, but I do like, again, I've said it before, I love some of their bikes.
None of them broke down and we didn't have to fix them on the highway. Or,
oh my God.
Go.
Oh, here we go.
Didn't shoot out of the engine or anything.
It's fine. It's fine. Why didn't the police block off the traffic for you? God dang.
Well, I don't think so. First off, it was we rode like 300 miles. So it wasn't like they called every town and told them, as far as I know.
Oh, okay.
And then the blockers were just doing their job. And I think everybody else was just so in awe of seeing all of these Indians riding through town that they were fine with it. And nobody really, like if it was a stop sign or something like that. But I think eventually it will be a problem. Eventually, because it's like 30 minutes now to watch 300
bikes
go by and traffic is stopped. So I think we're heading into
it's a long parade.
Like, because if all 650 people had gone, this would be like an hour stop.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we're heading into problematic areas in the future, probably.
And you get that many,
right?
So next year, you guys, what, 320? Do you get it at 320 next year?
I don't know. We'll see. I mean, when the Harley guys did, I think they did it in Texas. I think it was either Texas or it might have been right out of Milwaukee. So it might have been like in an area where it was well known, and they probably did call the towns and said, we got 3,000 people coming on a ride.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And like 20% of those broke down. So
God.
It was really not fully 3,000. It was probably started at 4,000, and 3,500 is what made it. So.
Got jokes.
I mean, I can't argue with it.
I mean, I actually have a Harley also, so it's not much of a...
Sometimes Harleys break down. It happens.
Yep.
You know, they put out a lot of bikes.
Yep.
You know, they put out a lot of bikes. When you only put out 10 a year, you can like really focus like Indian does. But
I also have a BMW.
There's a massive demand.
Never breaks down. You know, the BMWs never breaks down. And they don't produce as many.
Right.
Yeah. But they're not here. Is Indian still made here? Totally?
I mean, I'm sure parts are still shipped in from other places, just like probably
Harleys
are
too,
right?
Yeah.
So, but they're typically assembled here, I guess is the word.
Okay.
Yeah.
However you want to look at it, but I'm sure that from a steel standpoint, it's probably pretty hard to get all that stuff manufactured here.
Mm-hmm.
I really just don't even know much about what you can do to Indians as far as modding them. Can you do like?
Well, you can do all the same stuff you can do with a Harley.
Exhaust.
The only difference is
Risers.
that there's probably not as many other third-party companies producing this stuff.
Yeah.
So, consequently, like the first year I had it, there was nobody who was customizing stuff. And so I made a lot of my own stuff. So partly the responsibility became I'm making, leather stuff and things I wanted on the bike. And that's kind of how it started. Wow. And so I've been doing it for years. I made my first seat. I made a couple of things that, water bottle bags and things like that, things that you couldn't buy because there just wasn't anybody out there. So I said, why should we wait around? I'll just learn how to do it. And that's kind of what sparked it and trying to figure out what to do. So
what's like from inside the Indian community, what's like the outward look of your demographic. Like obviously everybody looks at Harley and they have that immediately stereotypical Harley guy. But when you're within the community, there's several different, like you have the performance guys, you have the cruiser guy, you have the guys that do choppers, but Indians,
so I would say
same kind of guy.
Indian as a group are a lot of ex-Harley riders, first off. The majority of them,
handle it, huh?
A lot of them will have come from or got mad at Harley for some reason, and then they left or decided that, this bike worked out better for them. So they are older riders. We don't generally have, and I guess as a whole, riding community, there's not a lot of younger riders, and the younger ones are buying, cheaper bikes that, might not be as expensive as a Harley or an Indian from that standpoint. And so I think most of the crowd is typically going to be plus 30, plus 40 that's been around for a while. And women. There's more, I think there's becoming more women riders. Not that Harley doesn't have its own group of women riders, but their bikes are heavier. And I'll typically see, and we have seen a couple of occasions where the woman that wants to ride is riding an Indian and her husband's riding a Harley.
Yeah. Seen that
because
too.
the weight of the bike is tremendously different from that standpoint.
So they're already doing it.
I was about to say, so they don't have to make customized motorcycles for women. Indian's doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Indian has a lot of customizations though for the Indian Scout.
Yeah.
Not nearly as many for their other bikes as they do for the Scout.
We had a conversation last podcast about some of that stuff. So
Yeah, okay.
Being silly.
Hang on. Oh God!
Did it.
Yeah, but he's got jokes.
Yeah, I've always got jokes. So long.
Yeah, right.
I was going to ask you, Z. So I wanted to know because, and I'll get your opinion on this too, obviously, but everybody in the room. But I wanted to wait to the podcast to ask you about something.
Oh no!
What do you think? This is gossip. This is straight tabloid gossip stuff.
I'm so excited.
You ready?
Tabloid.
What do you think about the Jada Pinkett Smith and Will Smith thing where they're now saying that they've been separated since 2016 and how she's talking about it like it's no big deal?
Yeah, like it was public knowledge or something. I think they're doing it for attention. Like,
oh, really?
yeah.
It's like a spy op, like Aliens.
Well, kind of, but like, okay, so he had that whole big old thing at the Grammys, right? And now that's died down. So let's make ourselves relevant again. Let's talk about our relationship. And here we are. We haven't been together since 2016. I don't know. I just think it's
You don't think it's real? You think it's a publicity stunt?
I think everything that they've done is has been a publicity stunt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it actually informs what we've seen over the last year. Like if I was Will Smith and that was my life,
Yeah.
I'd have to slap someone too. I mean, I hate that it's Chris Rock that got it, but if this is your life, you got to get that out somewhere. And quite frankly, when I read that, I was like, I bet he was just picturing her face all the way up that stage. He didn't want to hit him. He wanted to hit her.
Right.
What do you think of that, Scott?
I mean, maybe, but I don't really think much of them. I mean, I'm not saying I don't I like Will fine as an actor. I just don't think much of them. Like, I don't think, hey, today I'm going to think about Will Smith and Jada Pinkett and whether or not they're having sex or having sex with somebody else or they're having
I know.
Whatever. I don't really care. But I mean, from that perspective, I mean, I hope he's in some future Alien movies. I thought he was good in that.
Yeah, he was good in Independence. I mean, that's one of the best lines in a movie, right? Welcome to Earth.
Yeah.
Yeah. After he punches an alien in the face.
But
that's like an 80s. That's like an 80s moment in a 90s movie.
I feel like to me that there's so many actors and actresses that are putting out mostly political stuff at this point. But I prefer for them, if they're the product, to not speak about all the other stuff that would offend all the people.
They shouldn't.
And that's what I feel like. So I don't want their stuff out there. I want them to be as discreet and whatever and keep themselves the product and not talk about their, like, and I understand that's a difference from somebody else who might have an opinion, but there's a difference between them being a head of a company and having a product versus you're the product. Because once you make yourself the product and then you say something offensive, now you've got a bunch of people who really just don't even want to see your movie. They just discount you altogether. It's
interesting for me with Will Smith because he's one of my generation's people, like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, parents just don't understand. Those were big parts of when I was growing up, and literally up until they started talking about their entanglement things, I had a very different opinion of Will Smith. It was like, oh, this is a well put together man who's got a very successful career. He's just like someone that, oh, look, this guy's got it together. And then this happens and you go, oh my God, Will Smith has been a bitch this whole time.
Or as a whole, the money and the amount of fame and stuff changes the person.
Might be.
And things are no longer just a normal thing anymore. So, I mean, Tom Cruise, everybody, you go down the list. I mean, they're all got something. They're all,
I think
people. So.
I think she married Will Smith and wanted Tupac. And I don't think,
because they were together.
I mean, part of the current thing is that they said that they didn't have a prenup, right? So that may be why they're not divorced, right? Yeah. Like, I mean, how much? I mean, I don't know how much Jada is worth, but I'm guessing not Will money.
Right.
Could you imagine?
So true.
As messy as they are, what that divorce would be like? It is interesting, but I typically don't pay attention to all that stuff. But there's certain people throughout my life that, like Will Smith, was just one of those actors that if he was in a movie, I was going to see it. And now I just kind of don't. But it made me, what you just said a minute ago, made me think about how much we've kind of been robbed of the mystery within certain icons in our world.
Of Twitter and
social media.
Like, because I mean, I read a lot of Stephen King growing up, but Stephen King has gone nuts on. I mean, and I understand he has his opinion and he wants to go down the list, but he is constantly attacking other people all the time. And I'm like, well, your audience is at least half of these people, whoever these people are, but you're constantly attacking these people.
It's the weird thing about it for me. I
don't want that to happen if you're the product.
Yeah, I agree with it. The weird thing for me is I'm not on X a lot. I get on it every now and then, right? But there's a couple of people that I follow that I always liked that they literally don't post anything other than their political opinion, and it's usually like a severely hateful one towards one specific person. Right. It's like Rob Reiner,
There's a couple.
Stephen King. It's like all they post.
Right.
And you start to go, wait a minute. Are you going crazy?
I mean, or what kind of life do you have left? I mean, like, if this is what your life is now, why don't you go off and do something productive and change the world? I can't
imagine being Stephen King. Yeah. Being Stephen King, being the greatest, maybe the greatest novelist of all time, definitely the greatest horror novelist of all time. You have this immense life and you sit on your phone all day tweeting hateful things about a president, an ex-president.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
Or other piles of the same stuff.
Or basically, right?
Yeah. So, but I will say this about X, since Elon Musk has taken over X or Twitter or whatever at this point. So, for a long time, anytime you wanted to get any real news or anything, Facebook used to have stuff. And then after Trump was elected and other things that happened, it started to be eliminated. Like, things have been eliminated. And so it's mostly fluff now. There's not a lot of actual real content or details. It's literally like, how was my day? Like, it's not a whole lot of extra stuff. And then since Elon's taken over X, I actually am seeing more news and more worthy stuff that you might be interested in than just fluff. But I do understand that there has been some recent things that have happened where, and Elon hasn't said anything, he has had to take down videos and certain pieces because he's been either threatened, or the government or the EU has said these are privacy issues and you can't do this. So some of the videos that have happened from the war and other stuff that have happened where you're actually getting a side of the story has been removed again. But generally speaking, it's up and it's there for a while. And at least you can see some good, halfway decent discussion. But that is typically where Stephen King's over there going, I'm burning you down. So
it's such an interesting concept. And if I can make this comparison, every time I hear what we can and we cannot see, that there's a person or a system or a group of people that sit somewhere and go, you can't see this
and
guy get his head.
Them the choice, right?
You can't see this guy in Hamas get shot by a sniper. You can't handle that. What it reminds me of,
parenting.
Somewhat. But what it really reminds me of is the old school Catholic Church before they, before they before Martin Luther defied them and translated the Bible. You can't know this. You couldn't possibly handle this information. It's very much a system of control. And now that we're starting to get unfiltered information, how much longer can that structure last?
I don't think it's just that, though. I think that like the EU and other countries have passed more specific. Germany's very privacy protective. And so there's certain things like this person died and you can't show that on whether or not whichever side it is, it doesn't make any difference. You can't show that at all. And so people are having to police and remove that type of content. And it may be more interactive than just a death or something like that from that standpoint. But there's a lot of that that's being blocked on all of the systems now that you can't get a full discussion or get that content. But at least X has started to try to go down that path.
The sad thing, though, is if you want to see it, you can see it. Just go to Telegram. Go. I mean, there's plenty of sites out there that post that stuff. I mean, I'm not saying you should see it. I'm not saying it's not something that I don't know. I mean, I remember whenever I
just don't like you said, I don't want someone else making the choice to censor my knowledge.
That's right.
Based on that, if that's what I wanted to learn something about.
That's right.
Right.
That's where we're at.
We don't need an entity to step between me.
Facebook is literally blocking all of that.
It's funny because the only place we really do need systems of control like that is for the youth, but to allow parents to decide what their children can and cannot see, to filter that through that system, and that's being eradicated.
Yeah, that's.
But we can't. Right. That's hilarious to me. Well, Scott, I want to thank you and your hat for coming to the show.
Thank you.
It's always a blast talking to you, man. I know I always feel bad for Z, though, because you and I just start going off.
Why do you feel bad?
I don't know. I feel like you and I are like talking about aliens and stuff.
I got this.
I know you do. I know. But man, I love having you on the show.
She just likes that you got aliens out with somebody else rather than having to talk to her.
Dude, you should see the glassy eye. So basically, I'll start going off on I'll start going off on something, and she'll for like. She doesn't understand.
Right,
I'm
10,
in.
15 seconds.
Right? Like, I'm in. I want to talk about this shit. Right? I've been thinking about this theory all damn day, and I think I got it like tight, neat, and succinct. It's about a 20-minute explanation.
Right?
Too long.
So like 60 seconds in, she's like, oh my God, yes. Oh my
Maybe
God,
you and I should just have a phone call every day, because that's how my wife feels now too. She didn't want to talk about this. I'm like, I watch the news all day and I know the stocks. And she's like,
all right.
I
Good for you, Scott.
Hey, yeah, exactly.
I remember one time she looked at me and said, she was like, why does this matter to you?
Because the price of oil is going to be affected by how many dead aliens there are.
It's going to happen here eventually.
Yeah. Explain it to me and how it affects our life. Then I'll be fine. I'll listen and be interested.
But anyway, Scott, thank you so much for coming on the show,
Thanks
bro.
for having me.
You're more than welcome anytime. And thank you so much for my magic bullet.
Yep.
I definitely will appreciate it. I will put stuff in here.
Okay.
But, all right. Hey, before we head off, I mean, obviously you got all social media, all that stuff, things you're doing. Talk about your hat. I mean, isn't there a way people can buy hats now?
No, I don't sell any hats. I'm currently not selling hats. I only did it for the auction.
Oh.
I'm not, because this is my hobby. I didn't want it to become
What if they want to buy
life.
that hat?
Okay, good.
What if they want to buy that hat?
I mean, I guess somebody can come to bike night.
Put your beds in.
And try. I don't know. It's 25 hours worth of work to make a hat.
All right. What's your social media, Scott?
It's Scott A. Moulton, my whole name, Moulton. Or I also own My Hard Drive Died and Forensic Strategy Services. So either of those, if you just search for those and my name, you'll find plenty of previous material and things I've published.
Awesome.
Nice.
Z?
Yep. Just make sure you like and subscribe our YouTube channel. And you can find us on Instagram at Chuck and Z.
All right. Thank you, Producer Chaos. Great show tonight.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Bye, everybody. Shiny side up.
All right.
Roger.